If you're anything like me, I don't have to stress to you how annoying it is to experience frequent tightness around the hips and the back that prevented me from reaching my fitness goals or inhibited just performing basic simple movements. And what is even more annoying is that you spend an extraordinary amount of time trying to reduce or eliminate the tightness around the hips and the lower back, all to see your efforts vanish like snow before the sun. It was only when I discovered a major flaw in my approach that I managed to eliminate the tightness in my hips and my back, but also managed to boost my overall athletic ability and almost instantly unlocked skills like handstand presses and performing various dynamic movement patterns. So in this video, I'll show you what that flaw was, and similar to me, why it holds back most people from actually eliminating that nagging tightness around the hips and the back, and how swapping that flaw for one simple but very effective training mechanism can give you almost instant results that, applied over a period of time, will stay with you for the decades to come. And I give you a clear example that you can do after watching the video. So if you want to skip towards the demo, feel free to do so. But if you want to know why most people fall in the similar trap like I did and what this very powerful mechanism is, let's dive in. Now, what most people do when they experience tightness around the lower back or the hips is that they instantly blame their genetics as an argument for not seeing the results they want. They are simply inflexible, and the problem in this very big assumption is twofold. They, one, falsely accuse their tissues for being short or they are static due to the fact that they didn't see the changes that they want, and two, they expect that all tissue adapts in the similar way, where it doesn't matter if you contract, if you stretch, if you transmit, or something else. But here's the deal: your tissues are not too short, they are not static, and they can all adapt, every single one of them. Bones become denser if they are exposed to compressional forces. Muscles grow and densify when they need to produce more force to overcome a strong or stronger resistance. And connective tissue can remodel its properties when it's exposed to high loads in certain ranges of motion. They can all change, but we need to respect how these changes occur. And assuming stretching is the cure to relieve yourself of tightness around the hips and the lower back is that major flaw that keeps you stuck from actually seeing the progress that you want, which is also something that I did. Let me walk you through an example to make it very clear. Let's say you're sitting on the ground with the legs extended and the feet wide, and you're trying to sit upright. If in this case your back is arching and your hips start to scream at you, the traditional response is that you would simply stretch yourself a little bit more into a upright position and leave it as is. But what is actually happening is that there are certain regions of the body that are trying to prevent you from flexing, like the hamstrings, the adductors, and also parts of the lower back. What they are doing is they are pulling you back into a more extended position, as these regions are extensors. And this is not because you lack the potential capacity to head it to the opposite direction, which is flexion, but it's because the brain and the nervous system has labeled this flexed or forward fold position as unsafe. And simply pulling yourself or stretching yourself into that region does nothing to change that label that the brain and nervous system has put on this range of motion. That's because for the brain and the nervous system, stretching is not a mechanism to get you stronger. It's a mechanism to know where your tissues and your joints are positioned in relation to space. It's a sensing mechanism. And this is very important for you to know, because your joints don't just express forwards and backwards movements or side to side movements or rotational movements. They can express and do everything in between. And if you would quickly do the math, you realize that the options that your joints can express are infinite, all to give the brain and the nervous system an abundance of movement options that can be utilized when it needs to. And in order to retain as much of these options as possible, the brain and the nervous system has labeled the range of motion of your joints in two parts. One is the controllable and safe range. This is the area that we can access voluntarily, so your functional range. And two, an uncontrollable and unsafe range, which is the area we can't voluntarily access and move in and out to. So in case of the sitting example, if the back is arched and the hips feel tense, the brain and the nervous system are actually at work by contracting the extensors to pull ourselves back into a controllable and safe range, which means that if we move more towards a flex position, we're reaching the limit of this controllable and safe range. And once we exceed this limit, we end up in a situation where we could potentially inflict some serious damage, like a tear or a rupture of a ligament, or damaging the capsule of our joint. And that is, of course, not what we want. So if we can't stretch, then what do we do if we want want to eliminate this tightness? Well, we don't neglect the stretch, but actually we use it to explore this end controllable range. And once we reach it, we switch gears and we provide a contraction so that the brain and the nervous system feels that we can control this range of motion. Now, rather than sticking to the sitting example to demonstrate what we just talked about, I found that if we reposition into a little bit more of a resourceful way that aligns with gravity, we can truly utilize this sensing and contracting mechanism to see those results that we're after. Now, before I'm going to show you how we can be very resourceful with this pattern, I've made a quick mobility assessment where you can self-analyze if this hinge position is a pattern that requires most of your attention, and or if you have other positions that you might want to improve on, all to help you be very time efficient and effective in reducing certain tight spots or restrictions or stiff areas. It comes with a breakdown per position and the exercise I like to use to combat it with very clear instructions. You can download it in the link below for free. So we don't change the pattern where we stick to a wide position of the legs and we're tilting the pelvis and the upper body forwards, a folding or a hinging motion. I found that if you simply perform a standing pancake, you get much better results. And the reason why is because we can use gravity to help us sink into our current full range of motion at this hinging pattern. So similar to the sitting example, this would mean that we bring our hips and lower back into our end range of motion by first taking a couple of steps out. I like to stick with 5 to 6 steps if you can. If not, that's also fine. Then just go as wide as you can. And once you're in that position, you're simply going to fold the torso forward. I like to make sure that I lead with the belly towards the ground rather than the head. And once you feel a stretch emerge around the hips or the groin or the lower back, that's the moment that you stop and you grab your legs with the arms. This completes this stretching or sensing part. And also make sure that you take a snapshot of your current range of motion so you can see the progress that you're making after doing one session, but also over a period of time. Now, once you grab the legs, you want to contract the regions that are stretched. And the way I like to imagine this is I'm trying to actively pull the torso up while simultaneously trying to pull the belly down with the arms. So the mental cue is the arms are pulling down, the torso is pulling up. Again, do this with a maximal contraction for around 1, 2, or 3 seconds. And the stronger contraction you can generate, the more you're signaling and communicating with your brain and nervous system that you own that range. So if it feels uncomfortable, you feel some tingling sensations, that is actually you doing a great job of being a very good communicator with your brain and the nervous system. Now, after a bout of contractions, rest for just a second and then repeat it for 6 to 10 repetitions, and every time try to see if you can pull yourself a little bit deeper, only if you can generate a contraction in that range that you pull yourself in. That is the sole objective, not increasing range, but increasing contractions in the range of motion that you currently have access to. Now, this completes the contraction part. Now, on the final repetition, I like to offer the full range of motion a massive stimuli by engaging the extensors all the way until I'm standing while trying to pull myself down with the arms. It's almost like you're lifting a very heavy object. Speaking of which, for some, it might be a good strategy to start with a decent weight, since I found that for myself and some people that I work with, it might be a bit difficult or weird to contract near end range. And offering a weight can act as a tissue and contraction educator that forces you to engage the working muscles and connective tissue near that end range properly. So hopefully by now you know that the fundamental flaw, which is simply that you stretch into your end range of motion, which keeps the back and the hips stuck into always trying to extend the body rather than feeling safe to complete the other direction of movement into a flexed position. So your tightness is simply a consequence of your brain and nervous system that currently doesn't feel safe enough for you to explore certain positions more. And if you follow this example of sensing and contraction with the example that I just gave you, over time the tightness will disappear and you can forward fold and express more movement much better. Now, if you want to see how the standing pancake and other positions that give people headaches, restrictions, tightness, that helps you achieve an athletic and pain-free body in less than 2 hours a week, you can apply in the description below. If not, just watch out my other free content of the channel and let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time.